You know that moment when your entire world collapses in the span of about 30 seconds? When everything you've worked for, everything you've sacrificed for, everything you've believed in just evaporates into thin air? When the ground beneath your feet disappears, and you're left falling into a void with no idea how to catch yourself? When every memory you've ever made becomes tainted by the realization that it was all built on a foundation of lies? That was me at 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, standing in my own living room, staring at my husband's phone. He'd left it on the counter by accident. It was a simple mistake, the kind anyone could make. But that simple mistake would unravel everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and the people I trusted most in the world. It would reveal a betrayal so deep, so complete, so devastating that I would never be the same again. My name is Felicity. I am 44 years old. I have been married to my husband Marcus for 20 years. We have 2 children together, a daughter named Isabella, who is 18, and a son named Samuel, who is 15. We have a beautiful home in an exclusive gated community, the kind with manicured lawns and neighbors who wave when they drive by. We have a golden retriever named Max who thinks he's a lapdog. We have a vacation home on the beach and a ski condo in the mountains. We are that family. The one with the perfect lawn, the perfect holidays, the perfect social media posts that make everyone else feel inadequate. I am a successful real estate agent. I have built my career from the ground up, one sale at a time. I have always believed in honesty, in integrity, in doing what is right. I believed my marriage was one of those things. Right? True. Built to last. Marcus is a successful investment banker, the kind of man who commands attention when he walks into a room. He is tall, handsome, and has a smile that could charm anyone. He is also ambitious, driven, and has a way of making you feel like you are the most important person in the world when he is talking to you. He is the kind of man other women wish their husbands were like. He is the kind of father every child deserves. I met him when I was 24, fresh out of college and working my first real job at a small real estate firm. He was 30, already on his way to the top. He swept me off my feet from the very first moment. He was everything I had ever wanted in a man. He was charming, confident, intelligent, and he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It was a fairy tale proposal, the kind you see in movies. He took me to a beautiful restaurant overlooking the city, got down on one knee, and told me he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. He had even arranged for the restaurant to play our song in the background. I said yes, of course. I was madly in love with him. I could not imagine my life without him. He was my everything. Our wedding was beautiful, a lavish affair with hundreds of guests, a 5-tier cake, and a live band. I wore a designer dress that made me feel like a princess, and I walked down the aisle on my father's arm. When I saw Marcus waiting for me at the altar, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. I thought I had it all. I thought I was living the dream. But dreams have a way of turning into nightmares. That phone in my hand had a text message from someone I didn't recognize. Someone named Vanessa. The message was simple, but it was devastating. It glowed on the screen, a little blue bubble of destruction that would change everything. I can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you. I love you. Please delete this message before she sees it. Love you more than anything, V. I stood there, frozen, staring at the message on the phone. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the bay windows, catching the dust motes floating lazily in the air. It was such a normal, peaceful scene, the kind of afternoon I'd experienced 1,000 times. But now the silence was suffocating. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, a frantic drumbeat that seemed to echo through my entire body. My mind was racing, trying to process what I was reading. Who was Vanessa? Why was she sending love messages to my husband? What was happening? The questions swirled in my head like a tornado, and I couldn't latch onto a single coherent thought. I scrolled up. There were more messages. Hundreds of them, going back months, years. They were filled with declarations of love, with promises, with plans. They had been having an affair. For years. Behind my back. While I was at work. While I was taking care of our children. While I was building our life together. Each message was another nail in the coffin of my marriage. Remember that night in Miami? I've never felt so alive. I wish you were here instead of her. One day we won't have to hide anymore. I read them all, scrolling and scrolling until my thumb ached, until the words blurred together into a river of betrayal. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at those words, at the proof of a betrayal that was so deep, so complete, so devastating that I couldn't even begin to process it. My husband, the man I had trusted with my whole heart. The man I had built a life with. The man I had loved for 20 years. He had been lying to me. He had been cheating on me. He had been living a double life. I sank onto the couch, the leather cold against my legs, and a sound escaped my throat, something between a sob and a strangled scream. Max patted over, his tail wagging uncertainly, and laid his head in my lap. I didn't even pet him. I couldn't move. I sat down on the couch, the phone still clutched in my hand. I felt like I was going to be sick. My whole world was crumbling around me. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my family, my life was a lie. The photos on the mantle, our wedding picture, the kids' school portraits, a family snapshot from last summer's beach trip, all of them suddenly looked like props in a play I'd been unknowingly performing. I started to think back, to remember, to piece together the puzzle, the late nights at work, the business trips that seemed to happen more and more frequently, the distant look in his eyes when he was home, the way he seemed to be somewhere else, even when he was sitting right next to me. How many times had I asked him what was wrong, and he'd smiled and said, just tired from work? How many times had I accepted that answer, grateful for the reassurance, blind to the truth? There was the time he came home smelling of a perfume I didn't recognize, and he said a client had hugged him. The time his phone buzzed at midnight, and he said it was a work emergency. The time he canceled our anniversary dinner at the last minute because of a deal that couldn't wait. All those little red flags I had rationalized away. All those instincts I had silenced because I trusted him completely. I had been blind. I had been naive. I had been trusting. I had been stupid. I started going through the rest of the phone. There were emails, photos, videos, evidence of a relationship that had been going on for years, evidence of a betrayal that was so complete, so devastating, that I couldn't even begin to process it. There were selfies of them together on beaches I didn't recognize, at restaurants I'd never been to. There were videos of them laughing, her voice light and flirtatious, his arm around her waist. I watched one video in a kind of horrified trance. My Marcus, looking into the camera and saying, to the most beautiful woman in the world, I love you. He had never said those words to me with such intensity, not in years anyway. But that wasn't all. I also found evidence that Marcus had been stealing from me. He had been using my personal information to open credit cards, to take out loans, to buy properties. He had been building a secret life with Vanessa, funded by my money. He had been stealing from me while pretending to love me. He had been draining our joint accounts, transferring money to secret accounts, hiding his tracks. I found a credit card statement for an account in my name that I had never opened, with charges for hotels, jewelry, first-class flights I had never been on, to destinations I'd only dreamed of visiting. I felt like I had been punched in the gut again. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at those words, at the proof of a betrayal that was so deep, so complete, so devastating that I couldn't even begin to process it. The financial betrayal was almost worse than the infidelity. The infidelity was a wound to my heart. The fraud was an attack on my entire identity. My hard-earned career, my reputation. I found out that Vanessa was his mistress. She was a woman who had been using him for years. She was a con artist, a manipulator, a woman who had made a career out of destroying families. She had been using my husband, my money, my life, to build a future for herself. Through a quick online search, I discovered that she had a history, previous relationships with wealthy married men, lawsuits, settlements paid out in exchange for silence. She was a professional, and Marcus had been her easiest mark. I also found out that they had been planning to leave me, to divorce me, to take my children, to take everything I had worked for. They had been waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity. They had been planning to destroy me. There were emails where they discussed lawyers, custody strategies, ways to paint me as unstable. It was a coordinated assault on my life, planned in meticulous detail. I didn't confront them right away. I needed time to process. I needed to figure out what to do. I needed to understand the full scope of what had happened. I was a real estate agent. I knew how to investigate. I knew how to find the truth. And I was going to find every single detail of their betrayal. The fog of shock was starting to clear, replaced by a cold, steely determination. I had spent my career negotiating deals, outmaneuvering opponents, and uncovering hidden facts. I would treat this like the most important transaction of my life. I started doing some digging. I hired a private investigator, a sharp woman named Rebecca, who specialized in financial fraud and infidelity cases. I gave her the names of my husband and his mistress. I told her to dig deep. I told her to find everything. I told her I wanted to know every detail of their deception. Rebecca listened without judgment, her pen moving steadily across her notepad. When I finished, she looked up and said, "Mrs. Davis, I've seen this pattern before. We'll get you everything you need." What she found made my blood run cold. The affair had been going on for 7 years. 7 years of lies, of betrayal, of deception. 7 years of them hiding their relationship from me. 7 years of them pretending to be loyal while they were secretly plotting against me. 7 years of anniversaries, birthdays, Christmases, all tainted by the knowledge that he was living another life with another woman. The scope of it took my breath away. But that wasn't all. I also found out that Vanessa had been using my identity to commit fraud. She had been using my personal information to open credit cards, to take out loans, to buy properties. She had been building a secret life for herself, funded by my money. She had been stealing from me while pretending to be my friend. She had even attended our family gatherings twice. I vaguely remembered Marcus introducing her as a colleague who was new in town and had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. She had sat at my table, eaten my food, smiled in my face, all while her name was on fraudulent accounts opened in my name. I also found out that Marcus had been planning to leave me for her. He had been planning to take the children, to take our assets, to leave me with nothing. He had been waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity. He had been planning to destroy me. They had a timeline. They were going to wait until Samuel graduated high school, then drop the bomb. 3 more years, and I would have been ambushed, blindsided, left destitute. I was devastated. I was angry. I was humiliated. I was destroyed. But I was also determined. I gathered all the evidence I had. The phone messages, the emails, the photos, the videos, the financial records, the property records, the proof of their affair, the proof of their betrayal, the proof of their theft, the proof of their plans. I organized it all into a binder, meticulously tabbed and cross-referenced. If my life was going to burn down, I would be the one holding the match, and I would make sure everyone saw exactly why. I had everything I needed to destroy them, but I didn't want to just destroy them. I wanted to make sure they could never hurt anyone ever again. I wanted to make sure they would never have the chance to do to anyone else what they had done to me. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. It was about protecting the next woman, the next family from falling into their trap, so I started planning my revenge. I contacted my lawyer, a formidable woman named Catherine, who had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in court. I told her everything. I showed her the evidence. I told her what I wanted. "Mrs. Davis," she said, leaning back in her chair after reviewing the binder, "you have a very strong case. Your husband has committed fraud, adultery, and financial abuse. He has been hiding assets. He has been stealing from you. He has been lying to you for years. I can help you. I can make sure he pays for what he's done." What about Vanessa? She was the mastermind. She manipulated him. She used him. She stole from me. She used my identity to commit fraud. Your husband's mistress can also be held accountable. She has committed identity theft and fraud. She can be charged with multiple crimes. She can go to prison. She can lose everything. I've already contacted the district attorney's office. They're very interested in this case. Good, I said. That's what I want. I want both of them to pay. I want both of them to face the consequences of their actions. I also contacted the police. I gave them the evidence. I told them everything I knew about Vanessa's crimes. I told them about the identity theft, the fraud, the stolen money, the secret accounts. The detective assigned to my case, Detective Alvarez, assured me they would move quickly. She was arrested a few weeks later. They picked her up at a luxury hotel where she'd been staying on my dime, using a credit card opened in my name. She was charged with multiple felonies. She was facing serious time. She was facing the destruction of her reputation. She was facing the destruction of her life. When Marcus found out, he was devastated. He came home that evening, pale as a ghost, and found me sitting in the living room, the binder on the coffee table. He knew immediately that I knew everything. He collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands. "She used me," he said, his voice breaking. "She used me for my money, my connections, my access. She never loved me. She never cared about me at all. She just wanted to destroy you. She just wanted to take everything you had." "I know," I said, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of sympathy for him. "She used you, just like she used all the others. I'm so sorry, Felicity. I'm so sorry for everything. I should have listened to you. I should have believed you. I should have protected you. It's too late for that," I said. "You made your choice. Now you have to live with it." The trial was brutal. Vanessa sat in the courtroom, her face pale, her hands shaking. She tried to defend herself. She tried to spin the story. She claimed she was a victim too. She claimed Marcus had manipulated her. She claimed she had been coerced. She claimed she had been in love. But the evidence was overwhelming. The phone messages, the emails, the photos, the videos, the financial records, the property records. It was all there. Everything she had done, everything she had planned, everything she had tried to hide. The jury saw through her act. I could see it in their faces, the way they recoiled from her crocodile tears, the way they leaned forward when the prosecution presented each damning piece of evidence. The jury found her guilty on all counts: identity theft, fraud, forgery. She was facing a long prison sentence, 8 years. She was facing the destruction of her reputation. She was facing the destruction of her life. When the verdict was read, she looked at me with hatred in her eyes. "You'll regret this," she said. "You'll regret destroying my life. You'll regret everything." I looked back at her, my face calm, my voice steady. "I'm not destroying your life. You destroyed your own life. You made choices. You made mistakes, and now you have to live with them." She was led away in handcuffs. I watched her go, and I felt nothing. No pity, no satisfaction, just relief. It was finally over. She could never hurt me again. Marcus was also convicted. He was charged with fraud, adultery, and financial abuse. He was sentenced to community service and forced to pay restitution. He also had to forfeit his share of our assets. He had to start over from nothing. His reputation was destroyed. His career was ruined. His life was over. When the trial was over, I went home to my children. They were waiting for me, their faces filled with questions. They had heard the rumors. They had heard the whispers. They had heard the gossip. I sat them down and told them everything. I told them the truth. I told them what their father had done. I told them what Vanessa had done. I told them the whole story. They were devastated. They cried. They screamed. They asked why. Why would they do this? Why would they hurt our family? Why would they destroy everything? I didn't have any answers for them. I didn't have any words of comfort. All I could do was hold them and tell them I loved them. All I could do was promise them that we would get through this together. I started to rebuild my life. I threw myself into my work. I focused on my children. I started to heal. I also started to speak out. I told my story to anyone who would listen. I wrote articles. I gave interviews. I shared my experience with others. I wanted to help other women who had been through similar situations. I wanted to show them that they could survive. They could thrive. They could rebuild. I created a support group for women who had been betrayed by their spouses. It started small, just a few women in a church basement. But it grew, and grew, and grew. Soon, there were dozens of us, then hundreds, then thousands. We shared our stories. We supported each other. We helped each other heal. It was a long process. There were many dark days. There were many moments when I wanted to give up. But I didn't. I couldn't. I had come too far. I had fought too hard. I had survived too much. I realized that the best revenge was not in destroying them. The best revenge was in thriving, in building a better life, in becoming the best version of myself, in showing them that they could not destroy me, in showing them that I was stronger than they ever imagined. I started dating again. It was terrifying. I was scared. I was nervous. I was afraid of being hurt again. But I took a chance, and I met someone wonderful. A kind, gentle man named Thomas. He was everything Marcus was not. He was honest. He was loyal. He was loving. He made me feel safe. He made me feel valued. He made me feel loved. We got married 2 years later. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends. I wore a simple white dress, and I walked down the aisle with my head held high. When I saw Thomas waiting for me at the altar, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. And I had found my happiness again. I had rebuilt my life. I had found peace. It's been 5 years since everything happened. 5 years since I discovered the betrayal. 5 years since I destroyed the people who had hurt me. 5 years since I started to rebuild my life. I am happy. I'm at peace. I have everything I ever wanted. A loving husband, beautiful children, a successful career, a life filled with joy. Marcus is still struggling. He lost everything. His reputation, his career, his family. His life, he is a shell of the man he used to be. He lives alone in a small apartment. He works a dead-end job. He has no friends, no family, no one who cares about him. Vanessa is still in prison. She is serving a long sentence. She has been abandoned by everyone she loved. Her family has disowned her. Her friends have deserted her. She is alone, forgotten, lost. I don't think about them much. They are not worth my time. They are not worth my energy. They are not worth my thoughts. I have forgiven them in my own way, not because they deserve it, not because I have forgotten what they did, but because I can't carry that anger around forever. It was too heavy. It was destroying me. I had to let it go. I have learned a valuable lesson. Trust is fragile. Once it is broken, it is almost impossible to rebuild. And sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who betray you the deepest. But that doesn't mean you should stop trusting. It doesn't mean you should stop loving. It just means you should be careful. You should protect yourself. You should always be vigilant. You should always trust your instincts, because the truth is, our instincts are usually right. If something feels off, it probably is. If someone seems too good to be true, they probably are. And if you find yourself questioning someone's loyalty, you're probably not being paranoid. Loved this story? Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a video. I upload brand new stories every single day. Gripping, emotional, and packed with twists that'll keep you guessing until the very end. Don't forget to like this video if it gave you all the feels. Comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? I read every single comment. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the best lessons come from other people's experiences. Got a story idea? Drop it in the comments. Your suggestion might just become the next video on this channel. Subscribe now and join our growing family of story lovers. New videos drop daily at 7 a.m. EST. Perfect to watch with your morning coffee. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and never let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. Because you are. You always have been. And you always will be.